In this story, you'll hear about a husband whose world was shattered when his wife confessed to having feelings for another man. What followed was a night filled with painful truths, symbolic gestures, and an unexpected turn that changed everything. It was a regular Thursday evening that was about to become very unusual. My wife Joyce and I were in the kitchen, preparing dinner together. She was chopping an onion, while I sliced cheese and ham for our omelets. Then she said something that made me stop what I was doing. "David, we've been married almost 7 years and we've always been completely honest with each other, right?" she asked. I paused and put down the knife. "Of course we have. Honesty has been the foundation of our relationship since before we got married." Joyce turned to look at me with a serious expression. "I met someone," she said. A shock went through me. "You met someone? What do you mean?" I asked. Although I feared. I already knew. He's a guy from work, a really nice guy. "I've been having lunch with him," Joyce admitted. I felt a knot in my stomach. "Is there more to it? Do you like him? Maybe even a lot?" I asked. She looked away, guilt on her face, and nodded softly. My appetite disappeared, replaced by a sick feeling. I knew we had to talk about it. I dropped the knife and steadied myself by placing both hands on the table. "How far has it gone between you and this guy?" My voice was tense, and she could tell. She backed up against the counter. "We've had lunch every day for a few weeks, and we had dinner last week because you had a late business meeting. But have you held hands, kissed, or done anything more?" I asked. Her face turned pale and she nodded again. "We've kissed." I felt a sour taste in my mouth, almost choking me. Did things go further than just a kiss? She glanced at me and shook her head. "Not yet." I felt like I needed to sit down, so I grabbed a chair and sank into it. "So, you're considering it?" She nodded stiffly. "I think so. He wants me to go away with him for a weekend." "And are you going?" "Yes. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to figure out what he means to me." "I'm sorry, David. I know this hurts you and I hate that. But I promised him I'd go. I couldn't just sneak off without telling you. We've always been honest with each other about everything. Can I ask where you're going?" "Las Vegas, sharing a room, I suppose." "He says he's reserved a suite. Big spender. He thinks highly of me." "I'm sure he does." "When are you leaving?" "Tomorrow morning." "Wow. You waited till the last second to tell me, huh?" I waited to say something because I had to be absolutely sure I was going through with it before I hurt you. I almost chuckled at that, but it came out as more of a choked sob. That was considerate. "So you, Joyce, does he know you're married?" "Yeah, of course. I always wear my wedding rings." "Do me a favor and don't wear them when you're in his bed in Las Vegas." "David, I talk about you all the time when I'm with him. I'm sure you've had plenty of nice things to say about me to him, like I'm a nice guy just like him. But maybe you've also mentioned I'm a bit dull in bed, not the best provider, and I tend to leave toenail clippings on the carpet, among other little flaws that have pushed you away. I've never said anything negative about you, David. He knows I love you, but apparently not enough to keep you from going away with him for a whole weekend. You love me, but maybe you're not in love with me. Is that it?" "No, I don't know. I'm confused." "So you're seeking clarity in the arms of this really nice man, who knows you're married but doesn't care? A few days and nights in Vegas with him to figure out your feelings for both of us? Has this nice guy been tested for STDs recently? He's not like that, David. He hasn't been with a woman in over 2 years. That's what he says. But I bet he's not telling the whole truth. He's a hunter, sees a beautiful married woman and wants to conquer her. For guys like him, that's the real game. Steal a beautiful married woman and make her husband a cuckold. If he hasn't been tested, you might find out that what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas, and it could follow you home in a very unpleasant way." "Is this nice guy your boss?" "No. He's my boss's boss." "So you're really moving up, huh? Climbing the corporate ladder with your body instead of your talent and hard work? I'm not sure what I'm doing, David, but I want to find out, and your crude approach isn't helping. I'm not in any condition to help you escape with another man for A weekend in Vegas, Joyce. Let me ask you something. If I beg you not to go, if I get down on my knees and plead with you to stay here with me, will you do it? She looked down at the floor and shook her head. I can't, David. I promised Frank I'd go with him, and I can't break my word. At least now I knew his name. Wow. I see. You can easily break the vows you made to me 7 years ago, but you can't break your promise to Frank. Is that it? I'm sorry, David, I don't want to hurt you, but I have to do this for me. Please try to understand. I knew then that I'd lost her, but in my pain and misery, I had an idea, a parting shot that wouldn't change her, mine but might make her think about the impact of her actions on us. I stood up and turned to the basement door. Wait here, I want to show you something. Then I'll get out of your way so you can get ready for your trip. I went down to the basement and found the Halloween prop I needed. Then I opened our wall safe, took out a piece of paper, grabbed a hammer and some nails, and brought everything back up to the kitchen. Joyce looked confused when she saw me carrying a small wooden coffin we usually use for Halloween decorations up the stairs. What's going on? She asked. Just bear with me for a moment. We've been together for so long, and before it all ends, I want to show you something. I placed the 3-foot wooden coffin on the kitchen table and moved the sandwich fixings I had been using onto the floor. This is a coffin. Well, it's a cheap Halloween prop, but still, it's a coffin. Here's the lid, and here's a hammer and some nails. Her expression turned uneasy as I showed her the hammer. And this, I said, holding up the paper I retrieved, from the wall safe, is our marriage license. I opened the lid of the coffin, placed our wedding license inside, and closed it. David, what in the world are you doing? Put our marriage license back where you found it, Joyce said, her voice rising in alarm. Why, Joyce? It doesn't hold any significance anymore. It belongs here, inside the coffin, ready for its burial. She started tearing up. What are you talking about, David? It's proof that we're married, which won't be true anymore once you walk out that door to be with Frank tomorrow, I said. Now she was getting frantic. You don't know that, David. I don't know that. Ah, yes, Joyce, I'm well aware. Your choice is to run off with Frank, mine. Well, I choose divorce. I paused. Our marriage license is right where it belongs, inside this coffin. I grabbed a nail and positioned it on the coffin lid, driving it through with a loud thud that made Joyce jump. That's the first nail, symbolizing all those lunches and dinners you enjoyed with Frank. I added another nail to a corner. And here's the second, representing those passionate kisses you shared with him. I continued as her mouth trembled, watching me. I drove the third nail into another corner. This nail represents your agreement to go away with Frank, the really nice guy, to Vegas for the weekend, I said, holding up the final nail and positioning it at the last corner of the coffin. With one firm hit, I began driving it into the wood. That's the fourth nail, Joyce. You've heard the expression. The final nail in the coffin. It seals things for eternity, solidifying the fate of whoever or whatever is inside. Our marriage is in that coffin, Joyce. When you leave for Las Vegas with Frank tomorrow morning, that last nail will seal it, ending our life together irreconcilably and irrevocably. You can't mean that, David. You can't throw us away over one mistake. I'm not the one tossing our relationship away, Joyce. You are. I've loved you with every fiber of my being. You're the most beautiful, captivating woman I've ever known, and it's been an honor and joy to call you my wife for the past 7 years. No, I'm not the one ending things here. If I could, I'd climb into that coffin with our marriage certificate and be buried alongside it. Just to satisfy my curiosity and twist the knife a bit deeper. Let me ask, if I check the luggage you're packing, would I find some lingerie and maybe a negligee you bought just for this occasion? Joyce didn't answer, but her tears and expression said it all. That's what I thought. I'm leaving now. I don't want to witness your final act of betrayal. I'll come back to get what I need for the next couple of weeks after you've left with Frank, while you're in Vegas. Though I suspect you'll be too busy with Frank to think of anything else. You might want to consider what items in the house you'd like to keep. I won't be here when you return, but my lawyer will contact you in the next week or two. I grabbed my jacket, walked out the door, got in my car, and drove away. It was the worst evening of my life, and I felt dead and numb. I didn't know where I was headed, and I didn't care. I just needed to escape. Knowing I couldn't eat, I found a Motel 6 far from the airport to avoid the temptation of seeing Frank. It didn't matter in the end. He had won, or maybe I had lost. My phone buzzed a few times, Joyce's name flashing on the caller ID, but I ignored it. I didn't want to hear her excuses for abandoning what I thought was a wonderful marriage. I slept poorly, tormented by thoughts of them together. How foolish I had been to think I could keep her forever. Early the next morning, I showered, put on the same clothes, and went to the nearest Denny's for coffee and toast. All I felt I could manage. Despite my efforts to avoid thinking about Joyce, I couldn't escape the thoughts of her with Frank. I imagined my wife, the woman I thought would always be by my side, holding hands with Frank on the plane, kissing him in the taxi, rushing through, check in to get to their room. I had heard about the pain of being cheated on, but I had never realized how completely devastating it could be. At 8:30, I finally called my office to inform my assistant that I wouldn't be coming in. She asked if I was feeling unwell, and I said yes, adding that I hoped to be back to my usual self by Monday. After hanging up, I noticed a slew of missed calls from Joyce along with a dozen text messages. I didn't delete them, nor did I read them. The last message and call were from 7:45, so I assumed she'd given up trying to reach me when she left to be with Frank, the guy who had stolen my wife. I refused to call him a nice guy ever again. He was far from it. Revenge on him was inevitable. I just needed the right moment to be safe. I waited until 10:30 to go home and gather what I needed for my new life as a single man. As I pulled into the driveway and opened the garage door, I saw that Joyce's car was gone. Reality hit me hard. She'd probably taken it to meet Frank, avoiding the need for a taxi. I scolded myself for even thinking she might have changed her mind and stayed home. "Get real, buddy," I muttered. "She dumped you. She found a better deal. Some guy could whisk her away to Las Vegas and spoil her with fancy hotels. Wake up and move on. You might not find someone as stunning as her, but you'll find someone." Despite my words, deep down I struggled to believe them. The house was unnervingly silent as I stepped inside, viewing it through the hazy lens of a broken heart. Once it had exuded warmth and vitality, but now it felt cold and empty. Moving through the kitchen, I noticed the remnants of cheese and ham I had scattered on the floor were gone, and the coffin was no longer on the table. It had probably been tossed in the trash, showing my attempt to persuade Joyce hadn't made much of an impact. Lust, I reminded myself, can cloud judgment in profound ways. I ascended the stairs to the master bedroom and pushed open the door. Inside, the coffin sat atop the bed, its lid partially lifted, a crowbar resting nearby. Someone, presumably Joyce, had gone to considerable length to pry some of those nails loose. Out of curiosity, I checked and found the marriage license I had hidden inside, now placed between the two pillows at the head of the bed. Looks like she didn't even want to grant me that victory, I muttered aloud. I turned towards the dresser to grab my underwear and socks. And there, on the table by the window, lay 3 sets of beautifully crafted, undoubtedly expensive women's underwear, torn into shreds, along with a yellow negligee, also in ribbons. Atop the pile was a piece of paper with words written, in black marker, "I cannot share what I do not own." "What on earth?" I exclaimed aloud. Glancing back at the bed, I noticed a similar note propped against the coffin. "I cannot share what I do not own." The same message, in the same black ink. Suddenly, the screech of tires and the crash of 2 cars echoed from outside, followed by the front door bursting open. "Where are you? Oh God, please be here. Please, David, you have to be here so I can tell you how wrong I was. How horribly, stupidly wrong I was," a woman's voice screamed. I heard footsteps rushing towards the stairs, followed by the sound of stumbling and falling halfway up. She was sobbing uncontrollably, and when she saw me standing at the top of the landing, she reached out her arms and began to crawl towards me. In all our 7 years of marriage, and 2 years of dating before that, I had never seen her in such a state. She wore no makeup. Her hair was disheveled. Her eyes were swollen and red. She was clad in a C-Tech sweatshirt, gray sweatpants, and a pair of fuzzy but funny slippers I had jokingly gifted her one Christmas. "Joyce, what's going on? Where's Frank?" I asked. She shook her head violently and replied, "I can't give away what's not mine, David." That's what I told him. Told who? I asked. Frank. That's what I told him when he came to pick me up. I can't give away what's not mine. I was dressed just like this. He asked why I wasn't ready to go to Las Vegas with him, and I repeated that I couldn't give away what's not mine. He said, "What the hell does that mean?" And I told him I couldn't go anywhere with him, would never go with him, would never speak to him again, because I don't belong to him. My body belongs only to my husband, and I will never share it with anyone else. She continued her slow crawl up the stairs towards me. He called me names, David. He said I was a slut and a tease, that I'd wasted his money on airfare and a suite at the Aria. He threatened to ruin my reputation at work, calling me a whore, and said he'd get me fired. I told him he couldn't get me fired because I quit. He was so angry, his tires screeched for a block when he drove off. Finally reaching the landing, she wrapped her arms around my ankles and hugged my legs. "I'm so ashamed," she cried. "I hurt the only person who's always shown me love, who would do anything for me. I betrayed the trust of the man who means everything to me. I'm so sorry." And then she wept. She held on to me for what felt like an eternity, though it was probably just a few minutes. I was stunned, unable to move. The woman I adore, the center of my universe, who I worshipped with every fiber of my being, had shattered my heart. And now, half a day later, she was clinging to my legs, sobbing. Every fiber of my being urged me to gather her in my arms, to express how deeply I cherished her, and to assure her that we would navigate through this difficult time together. I remained frozen, unable to move. The events of the past 15 hours flooded my mind. Though part of me believed she hadn't consummated her relationship with Frank, the sense of betrayal lingered. A married woman doesn't engage in intimate lunches and dinners, share passionate kisses, or plan a getaway in Las Vegas with another man. While she had come to her senses before any irrevocable harm was done, the betrayal cut deep. I stood there, gazing at the woman who until last night had been my entire world. It was clear she was in as much pain as I was. Our marriage hung precariously on the edge of a dark abyss, and I wondered if we possessed the strength to prevent ourselves from toppling over. Reaching down, I lifted Joyce to her feet, and we embraced until her sobs subsided. "Let's go brew some fresh coffee," I suggested. "Thank you, David." "Oh, David," she whispered. "I think I might have damaged your car when I pulled into the driveway just now." "Yeah, I heard it. We'll discuss that too," I assured her. I helped her back downstairs and into the kitchen. As we sipped our coffee, I asked, "What made you change your mind last night? You seemed sure about going with Frank. What happened?" She looked at me over her cup, her eyes still red and swollen. "You buried our marriage." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You put our marriage license in that coffin and sealed it shut. After you left, I went upstairs to pack, but I kept thinking about our marriage license trapped in that dark place. It felt like our marriage was over, like you were burying it. It was in a place with no air, no light, and it couldn't escape. Then I started to think about all the wonderful things our marriage had given us, all it meant to me. We were so happy together, and I remembered how happy you always made me. I guess I dozed off," she continued, "because I dreamed I was in that coffin, in that dark place, and I felt like I was suffocating. It felt so real that it woke me up, and I knew I had to open that coffin and get our marriage out. Let it breathe again. Let me breathe again." She chuckled softly. "I never realized how well you hid your tools. It took me at least an hour to find a crowbar, and another half hour to haul that coffin up to the bedroom, and pry the lid open enough to get our license out. Felt possessed, like I had to retrieve it before you could seal the coffin shut. "When did you decide not to go with Frank?" I asked. She giggled again, a sound that warmed my soul. "About 2 seconds after you left. I knew I could never go away with Frank or anyone else. I felt so foolish and ashamed. How could I treat the only man I've ever loved the way I treated you? I tried calling you over and over, but you wouldn't answer. Then I started texting, but that didn't work either. Much later, after I finally pried the coffin lid open enough to reach inside, I thought about how I would tell Frank I never wanted to see him again. I wiped off all my makeup and put on your old C-Tech sweatshirt and sweatpants. My eyes were already red and swollen from crying, and I wondered how Frank would see me. The real me that you always see, and still. Love, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever known, Joyce. Even now you look perfect to me. And when I realized that, I knew I had to do everything in my power to win you back, to make you love me again. I hadn't packed much yet, but as I started to unpack, I saw the lingerie I bought for the trip with Frank, and I broke down again. Just the sight of them made me sick. They were the final expression of my betrayal, and I had to destroy them. So I took my scissors and ripped them all up. They cost a lot of money, but I couldn't bear to look at them. I destroyed them, just like I thought I destroyed you and our marriage. That's when I went to where I kept our marriage license and picked it up to look at it. It's really simple. It says that Joyce Russell and David Campbell got married on June 12, 2005. My maid of honor and your best man witnessed it. As I read it, memories flooded back. We stood in front of all our family and friends and promised to be faithful to each other until death. I cried again, realizing I couldn't be with anyone else but you. I told Frank I couldn't share what I didn't own when he came to pick me up. Thank you for sharing. You've given me a lot to think about. Do you think we'll get through this and be okay? Joyce asked. I'm not sure, Joyce. I hope so. But right now I'm unsure. You nearly broke me last night. I've never felt such pain before. I felt betrayed, alone, and helpless. Can you imagine knowing the person you love most, the one you've always trusted completely, is choosing someone else over you? Tears welled up in her eyes again. Oh, David, I'm so sorry. I was out of my mind. I'd do anything to make it right. Even die if that would help. Dying definitely wouldn't help. I want you alive, healthy, and more than anything, I want to trust you again. Luckily, it won't be as hard as it could be because, like you said, we've always been honest with each other, even last night when you told me what you thought you felt. What now, Joyce? I'm not sure about you, but I didn't sleep well last night. If it's okay with you, I'd like to have you with me in bed. It might be too soon for that. We don't have to do anything, David. I just want to feel you next to me, where only you belong, she said, her dark eyes pleading earnestly. I couldn't resist her plea. Okay, but no funny business, Joyce. I'm still upset with you, I replied firmly. A small smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. Anything you say, darling, she replied, crossing her heart. She took my arm and led me upstairs to our room. Absolutely no funny business. For a couple of months, things were uncertain. No matter how hard I tried, there were times when that night would haunt me, leaving me in a bad mood. Joyce seemed to notice those times and would shower me with love until she was the only thing on my mind. Eventually, she quit her job. When her boss and HR asked why, she told them about Frank. Though embarrassed, she needed to get it off her chest. Not surprisingly, HR informed her that Frank, the seemingly nice guy, had 3 harassment complaints against him. In short, he lost his job and references. Joyce was allowed to keep her job and even received a substantial sum of money in exchange for not suing the company. She stayed at her job for about 6 months, and during that time we found out we were going to be parents. Life moves forward. Sometimes you have to give someone a second chance to make things right, even though many people would disagree with me. Thanks for watching. What do you think about how everything turned out? Would you have given Joyce a second chance or ended the marriage for good? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your take. And if you enjoy true relationship stories, feel free to subscribe. More are coming soon.